everyone. I am Samantha Mowat. I'm a clairvoyant psychic and a contactee, and over the last year and a half, I've been focusing very heavily upon taking my experiences, taking them off of my phone, putting them into my journals, transcribing them onto the computer, and really heavily reviewing the various beings that I've met. And in doing so, I have failed to I have failed to respond to emails, get back to people quickly when it comes to text messages, phone calls, and for that I'd like to apologize. Because it is not my intention to be rude, nor is it my intention to make people wait. It is simply a matter of me taking into account all the different things I've gone through and allowing myself to deal with the emotions and some of the frustration and the PTSD that does come when you experience a lot of contact. What a lot of people don't really understand about this is if you're encountering different types of beings, in particular beings with different agendas, they're not always nice to you. And they can be physical encounters, astral encounters, psychic encounters, and you're probably wondering what the heck I mean when I say astral. Well, that's when your soul leaves your body at night. And psychic encounters are for people like me who are psychics, whether it's clairvoyance, empaths, claircognizance, clairsentience, telepaths. We're all psychic to one extent or another. But for some of us, these abilities are things that we can't really shut down, no matter what. And when you try to shut them down through things like drugs, alcohol, medication, it can actually just send a lot of people into depression, which is the case for some of my family members. But for me, I've been dealing with so much of my PTSD over the last year, really trying to take that time to meditate, to work out, to not allow for some of my experiences to really control the rest of my life. It's been a really difficult thing. And part of what I've really learned over the last little bit is that when you go through these things, if you don't allow yourself the time to heal, or the time to really process what you've gone through, which is what I did for a very long time. The majority of the encounters that I've had throughout my lifetime, I would go through an experience, I would have it, I would deal with it a little bit for a couple days, and then I would neatly tuck it away in a section of my mind and go, you know, I'm going to deal with you at a later date. I don't want to process you, I don't want to deal with you, I don't want to analyze you. But as I've been preparing to write my book, and I've been really getting everything organized so that I could really have a clear, concise idea of what it is I've encountered and how the different groups have interacted with me, and really breaking it down into the different aspects of the multi-dimensional reality that we live in, looking at the beings that are portraying themselves as angelic when they're not, and looking how some of the humanoids aren't necessarily good and how other ones are wonderful, and how same thing can be said with some of the greys, the reptilians, the mantis. The light beings are the only ones that I've encountered that I find are very loving and very gentle and very consistent in their intentions towards us. Now when I say light beings, I do mean those of an angelic nature. Every other group seems to have variations contained within it, in the same way that humanity does, where some are kind, and they all have varying degrees of agendas, whereas others are not so kind. And it's really important to look at that, because I understand how a lot of people look at how the majority of myself and the way I do come across to people is quite optimistic. But I also don't want for them to see it as either a false optimism or a naive and stupid optimism, because that's not the case. Part of the reason why I do try to keep my vibration very, very high in regards to what I eat and what I drink and what I do is because I have had beings tell me, you need to do this or you will have beings feeding off of your energetic field. And when you... Hummingbird. I'm so excited. But when you have these beings telling you when you're going to school on craft, and other ones when you're astral projecting and they're leading you around, showing you different places in the world and seeing normal people in their waking life, and you're astral projecting and you're not visible to them because they're not aware of that frequency of your soul as it's passing them, and you're seeing these other beings that are feasting off of the emotions and harvesting that energy and eating it, you start to become very aware of how when you're going through periods of being drained or angry or hypersexual or any of those more heavy and dense emotions, how you're providing a field day for these beings when it comes to their food, because it's not only just loosh energy, but it's just a vibration they're better able to consume. So that's part of the reason why I do try to keep things on more of an optimistic level. I took the advice of my mother and my husband, and I did take all of my encounters, and I have written them down, and it has been so overwhelming. I'm talking about a lot of crying over the last year, which has been wonderful for releasing, because when we pent up energy within our body, it can actually become dis-ease, and which later becomes disease. So think of it this way: if you have everything, as you know, is energy, and if you're holding on to a really traumatic thought or a really traumatic experience and you're having trouble letting it go, it's important for you to take time to really look at that thought, to evaluate it, to not necessarily relive it, but just give yourself a clear idea of what happened. And then as you're doing that, if you find that it's too much for you, it's okay to put that experience down, but you know, I'm going to deal with you in a bit. I need to go have a cup of tea, or I need to go for a run, or I need to go walk my dog, whatever it is. But give yourself that chance for a break and then come back to it. Because by doing stuff like that and allowing yourself to really look at it, and then asking the beings, the higher vibrational ones like the angels, saying, angels, can you please help to clear this energy away from me? Can you please take it out of my aura? Can you help me to heal this experience? And then trust in those intuitive nudgings that you get, saying whatever it is they tell you to do. In my case, my angels told me, Sam, you can't keep running from this. You have to look at it. You have to look at your MyLab stuff, and you have to analyze, and you have to see the commonality and the patterns to really get a clear idea of what's happening. And I was a really stubborn little monkey for a long time. I was like, nope, don't want to do it. Not going to do it. You can't make me do it. So what do my angels do? They then bring me a lot of people that have MyLab experiences themselves, and I kept having it come up with my clients where they would be talking to me about their experiences and their MyLab experiences, and by bringing me a synchronicity overload of people who have gone through stuff like that as well, I realized it was their way, or the universe's way of saying, you've got to deal with this. We're not going to let you avoid it. You need to work through it to get to your next step in your evolutionary process. And I have been doing it. But that has led me to a couple of really big realizations. By writing down these experiences, I've come to see that some of the people that I see in my MyLab situations, I've started to identify who some of my handlers are, and who some of the people that I've been abducted with a few times are. And it's great to have an idea of what this stuff is, even if it does trigger you, because it can give you a better idea when you're looking at the subconscious mind and you're looking at the encounters that you're going through and how that stuff is impacting what's going on in your day-to-day life. And that's what I've found has been very helpful for me. Granted, it's made me cry a fair bit, but what can you do? Someone's calling my dog. Very cute. But one thing I do want to let you know just before I let you go is that if you have emailed me over the last year and a half, so I'm talking about 2019, going back to the beginning of 2018, I am so sorry that if I haven't responded to you. It really is not anything personal. I've looked at the 600 and something emails that I have to get back to, and I'm going to be getting them done, hopefully all before the end of this year. I honestly wish you all peace, love, and light, and I thank you so much for your patience.